Hello everybody, welcome to another watercolor tutorial. We are painting something fun today. We're painting a forest, but it's not going to be like a moody black toned forest with pine trees like I usually paint, but more of the type of forest I live in. So let's just get right into it. I'm actually I'm debating on how to start this painting. I should have probably thought of that before I turned the camera on. Okay. So I'm grabbing my size 14 brush, but you could use a mop brush, that would work too. And we want to create a horizon line that's going to be about, I don't know, around 2/3 down our page, and it's going to be like this dark kind of the unknown of the forest that we're later going to fill in with trees. But I want to make this like a greenish black situation, and it's going to have a blue sky, so it's gonna look something like this, and we're gonna, gradient that out upwards like so. I did tape the borders of my piece of paper. Someone suggested that I tape it to like a cardboard or something so that it doesn't stick to the bottom, and I forgot to do that. But that was a great suggestion for you guys that suggested that. Really, it's such a simple thing. I don't know how I didn't even think of that. Whoa, I don't know why that's purple. I certainly don't want a purple sky. Not, yeah. So yeah, I'm just, actually that kind of looks nice, the blue fading into this really light grayish purple. It's not too bad. So there we go. I do want there to be more contrast. Like this isn't dark enough for me. So let's try this again. I do want there to be like quite a distinct line here. I'm gonna add a little bit of black. Mix that in nicely. And then bring that green up a little bit more into the blue. Sort of like that. That looks nice, I think. And this bottom portion is going to also be green, but we're going to start out with a much lighter green, like sort of like a meadow color. And then later we'll go over it a little bit more. I'm gonna leave just like the thinnest white gap because I should have just waited until this was totally dry. Oh, whatever. I guess it's blending now. Actually, while this is, I don't like that this is happening. I really wanted there to be a distinct line. Oh well. My fault for being impatient, as I always am. But while this green is still wet, we're going to use the wet and wet technique and just apply some darker green tones in there to give our forest floor a little bit of variety. So you can even add some black in there if you want to bring out the green. Doesn't have to be like I'm just kind of dabbing my paintbrush wherever. I really do not like what happened here. I'm gonna try to fix this. I really wanted these two to be quite distinct, like a very distinct line, and it's kind of blending together now. Yeah, so I just want there to be texture on our forest floor. I don't know if I said that already. Shadows, you know, bumps, mossy. Maybe you can paint some rocks later with moss on them. All right, let's let this completely dry before we move on to the next part. Okay, so this is dry, I think. Now we can start painting some fun details. So I'm taking brown and I'm just using some existing brown and orange on my palette because I am not very good at cleaning my palette in anticipation of future paintings. I mixed it with a little bit of black just to darken it a tad bit, and we're gonna paint trees that start at our horizon line first. So these are going to be a bit lighter, more watered down, and we're gonna make them thinner than the ones that we're gonna paint in the foreground because, you know, we want to make them look like they're farther away than the ones in the foreground. So I'm starting them at the horizon line and then just extending them upwards. I'm gonna I just mixed my brown a little bit. I don't know if you can see it over here. There was some like blush color and I actually like how it looks. It has this reddish undertone to it and kind of makes it look a little bit more faded, kind of what I was going for in the first place. So we're just adding as many of these as we want. You can make some skinnier than others. Thinner, I should say. Young trees, old trees, further away trees. You know, you can just keep going forever. I'm switching to my size 1 here because I do want to add some offshoots for some of these trees. Branches that we're going to later perhaps add leaves or something onto. Okay, so I like how that looks. Those branches definitely add a more haunted look and a little bit more complete in this forest. I quite like that. So what we want to do next is start, what should we do? Okay, actually, I'm going to add some greenery to these guys before we start painting the foreground trees, because then they'll cover up, you know, the greenery. And we do want to do the same thing that we did with the tree trunks, in that we want to make them the greenery for these trees, we want to make them faded so it matches the faded tree trunks. I'm trying to revive some of this green that I have down here, because I am too lazy to mix some more. And I'm using my finger actually to, I don't want to say blend out the green. It's just when I paint it on with my brush, it's very harsh. Like the lines are very harsh. I don't want it to be as pigmented. And when I just dab my finger over top, it greatly softens the green. So you can try that. For sure, for sure. You don't have to do it everywhere, by the way. Like, I'm actually getting lazy. I'm adding this greenery everywhere. Whatever. It's so light that, you know, it's all right. So these very light green shadows, they really give the illusion that there's a thick forest growing there in the background. We can add some more details a little bit later, but I just wanted to get that first layer down so that there's some sort of base color to work with before we start painting on our foreground. But that's what we're gonna do now. So I am grabbing that original brown, adding a lot more black this time, because we want to darken that color, because the more intense a color is, the more that it looks like it's in the foreground of our painting. And so you can start painting your, or sorry, what was it? I meant to say that the darker it is, the closer it appears to the viewer. So I'm gonna start with a tree, probably here somewhere. And I'm starting below my horizon line, because again, I want it to appear closer to the viewer, and it's going to be thicker than our initial trees that we painted. Holy, my fridge just turned off. And when the fridge turns off, you only then realize how loud that thing hums at. And I'm in the bathroom. I'm just adding black on one side as a shadow to darken the tree and add some light features to it. I don't know, I guess the sun's coming from the right. But that's not necessarily the case. This is a forest, so the light is very filtered and, you know, never really that consistent. Okay, I don't want a very harsh bottom here where my trunk is, so I kind of blended it out, but obviously that does not look good. So I'm taking green, whatever green you want. And I am going to kind of add some green. I don't know, this can be moss or something that's crawling up the tree. Something green. And again, I'm gonna try using my finger just to minimize the harshness of that green. And that actually, we can kind of adjust that a little bit later, but I wanted to go over that before the bottom of the trunk dried. And because I already have the pigment, the green pigment on my paintbrush, I'm going to add some grassy, mossy shadows, details, whatever, in other parts of my painting. Maybe it would be beneficial to like add it at the horizon line a little bit to separate the horizon, because remember how earlier it blended a little bit more than I wanted it to. So maybe we can use it to our advantage. So this is where your intuition really just comes into play. Like, I didn't plan to put this here. It actually looks really good, I think. I'm kind of stippling my brush because I want it to have this very dotted effect almost. Like, moss is not this smooth entity. So I'm running out of that green on my brush, which is no problem, but I do want to add a little bit of black to that green. Give it a little extra something something. Kind of has already dried, which defeats my intention. Okay. All right, we're starting to get somewhere in this painting. So let's just continue on with the trees. I'm gonna have another one. Maybe here it's gonna be a little bit thicker. Oh, I didn't want to cover this split. I really liked how that looked. Oh well. I'm almost tempted to make this tree that was not supposed to happen. Okay, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna make this tree go all the way down, and I'm gonna thicken it to cover that little mistake. That little bump, whatever that was. I'm gonna make the shadow go across the tree this time. I don't know what I'm doing. Just trying different things. And that is the beauty of painting. You don't have to follow exactly what you see. You can experiment with things, like if something speaks to you, if you're like, oh, maybe this would look cool, like try it. Oops, see, that was not intentional. Maybe have another shadow on this side. That tree looks pretty nifty, I think. I really like playing with shadows. So this, because I had that shadow running diagonally across the tree, it kind of looks like the tree is twisting as it's growing upwards. Really looks neat. I'm glad I made it extend all the way to the bottom of the page. Makes it really look like it's in the forefront in your face. Yes, I like that. I think I'm going to add another tree here somewhere. This one's gonna be a little baby tree. So this is much more what my forest looks like, the forest that my home is surrounded by, and rather than those really misty, moody pine paintings that I really like to paint. It's much more of a woodsy vibe than a Pacific Northwest vibe, as much as I love painting those paintings. So I'm gonna quickly switch to a thinner brush because I do want to add some branches coming off this guy, and I wish I did that on, I might still do it on this one. I forgot to add branches. Okay, so again, I want to adjust that bottom, blend it out a tad bit first, and then pick up my green and make it look nice and mossy. And just finish that off, blend it out gently with my finger. Something like that. Okay, so this is slowly starting to come together. What I find is missing here is really texture in our painting. Everything is very smooth other than the moss that we added. So I do want to add some more like textury details to really contrast the smoothness. Like bark is not that smooth unless you're looking at a specific type of tree that does have smooth bark, but in my case, this should not be this smooth. I am just gonna go over this tree simply because I do want to add a branch to it, and if I just add the branch dry, then it's gonna stand out a lot. So the branch is going to come from here. Go out like this. Maybe have another branch to break up this empty space on this side. So that's a little extra something there, I suppose. I'm gonna go over that moss here just so it doesn't look too contrasty. Okay. So now that I've got the branches down here, there's a little bit more to it. So I do want to add some more mossy green details, and also details on the trunk, which I think I might actually start with. So I'm gonna mix black with brown, but have a lot more black because I really want to add texture here. And I'm not really sure how to describe this yet because I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing. I'm just experimenting right now. I'm painting these vertical brush strokes, but I just encourage you to wait until I know what I'm doing because this might end up looking horrible. Because I want to make it look like bark, right? Now I'm gonna grab maybe some white in there, and then blend that out a little bit. Okay, that did not look how I wanted it to. I really wanted to add like bark texture, but it just ended up kind of blending into this blob. So I'm gonna try something different in a second. I mean, it added a little bit, but I'm gonna switch to my quadruple zero here. And I'm gonna just try doing very thin pigmented black lines instead. And my tree is still wet. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I guess we'll find out. I mean, it's doing something, but it's not like this dramatic tree trunk texture that I was hoping for. You guys gotta remember that I'm used to painting pine trees. They're very different from deciduous trees, especially detailed ones. When I'm really trying to nail the texture, like I don't paint these too often. And I'm always improvising in paintings. I don't paint a painting first. That would take super duper long. Holy, like I am really in awe of watercolor artists that teachers and instructors on YouTube that paint it first for themselves to test it out and then paint it again for a tutorial. Like, holy, that would take so much time. Like, these paintings take me an hour, so that would take me twice as long. Craziness. Okay, so here you can see the difference, where here I painted wet on wet, and here I'm doing basically the same thing with the black stripes, but the branch was mostly dry. I don't know how well you can see that because it's like the color is very similar. But what I am going to try to do is add like green texture, especially to this meadow. Like it's really lacking, it's very flat. So let's just focus on the greenery for a bit and see what we can do with that. A lot of people ask me, oh, like what type of green do you use? I don't know the color names of these guys. I'm mixing a lime green, kind of like a bluish green, and then I add black just to darken it. And usually that gets me a really nice color of green. And we are going to try adding like green leafy details. So I don't want a lot of paint on my brush here. I kind of dabbed it on a paper towel. And I'm just using that stippling motion that I mentioned earlier. I do want a little bit of volume there though, like, so don't be afraid to apply a little bit more pressure in certain areas if you find that it's looking a little too fluffy for your liking. I'm just pretending there's another tree here somewhere. And going back over, adding some darker green or more pigmented green on top. I do want to have some green, like almost crawling up the tree in some areas. Maybe it would be nice to paint that rock that I mentioned earlier. I'm gonna grab some gray, or you can just use watered down black. That works as well. And I'll have like a little rock sticking out over here. I'm not very good at painting rocks. So let's see if we can kind of turn it into a mossy rock. Not really. That was a failed attempt, but that's okay. No one will know. Where else can we add some greenery? Okay. I need to amp up this greenery. It's taken a little too long for my patience level. I watered it down a little bit, and I'm just kind of very roughly spreading it everywhere. All right, I'm gonna try and have some coming up here. I'm using a little bit more lime green because I'm hoping it's going to stand out a little bit more than the darker green that we were using. I don't know how well you can see that with the lighting and everything. So again, I'm just kind of spreading it in a lot of places in this meadow because I'm losing my patience with the amount of time that this is taking. So as you can see, I'm going over some of the original blobs that I painted because they faded a little bit and just want to make them stick out again. Stand out, add a little bit of extra something. I feel like this is still missing something. I just can't figure out what. It's too smooth. There isn't enough texture, and I'm trying to figure out where it needs something extra. I'm adding some grass blades or something at the bottom. That is actually helping. Some like darker grass strands that contrast against everything else. I wish I knew how to paint a boulder, like a nice gray rock, because I think that would look nice. If there's like a giant, I have tons of these giant boulders in our forest. It would look great right here. I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna try and paint it. Let's see what comes out of this. I'm gonna add a little bit of black to my gray. Let's see. I'll have it coming out behind this tree. Clearly it was not completely dry, so now it's bleeding. Not ideal. So perhaps I should let that dry before I keep adding to it. I am going to add some grass to this, to the bottom of it, before it dries, and it'll blend in a little bit, make it look nice. Mossy maybe. Trying to carry on with that mossy theme. Actually, that fuzzy look on the bottom doesn't look that bad. I'm glad I added that rock. It does add a little something extra to this painting. I do want to add some sort of shadow so it looks a little bit more jaggedy, because right now it looks like a very smooth rock. Honestly, if you drop black anywhere on that rock, it'll add some shadowy texture to it. So, I mean, it looks a bit furry at the top because the background wasn't totally dry, but that's okay. We can deal with that. I'm tempted to add another rock since that rock turned out so nice, like maybe in this corner. Let's do it. Maybe another one out coming out here. Why not? We're adding rocks everywhere now. So it's coming together. It's coming together. It looks a lot better than it did before. Still missing something. Still trying to figure out what it is. Perhaps we just need to add like darker features to the leaves up top here. Like more contrast in certain areas. I just don't want to make it look too intense and add too much, because we don't want that either. Okay, I'm gonna try one more thing to make this pop, because we're at 51 minutes. I'm gonna try and edit this so that it's a little shorter. I'm gonna try adding white. So I'm taking white acrylic paint for this, and let's see whether they're white highlights or like flowers, I don't know. Make it look a little more mystical. Could be highlights or dew, morning dew that's reflecting off of the grass. Could be whatever you want it to be, but I do think this is going to make a difference. Add some shine, if you will. Okay, I mean, I also don't want to overdo it. So I'm a little bit hesitant to go into the branches and add these details to the branches. Actually, another thing I'm gonna try is taking white watercolor paint. So it's obviously not as opaque as acrylic paint, and maybe adding that. I'm really favoring the blending out with your finger method. All right, I think I'm gonna just stop fiddling with this before I keep saying that, but I can't help myself. Maybe I'll add some yellow. Yellow might bring it out. I don't know. It's just, I feel like this painting is so close to being complete. It just needs like some final little touch of something. And it's such a simple little addition. I just can't quite figure out what that something is. So now I'm trying yellow. But I feel like if I keep going, I'm gonna inevitably do something that ruins everything. So you know what? Let's stop. Let's stop trying. We're at our limit here. So let's peel this tape off, see what it looks like. Looks pretty nice. Let me know what you guys think. What would you have done to add something to this because I still think it's missing some sort of texture. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.